There is a moment many people reach where their intention is genuinely clear. They know what they want. They can articulate it precisely. They may even feel aligned, motivated, and sincere. And yet, nothing stabilizes. The outcome doesn't arrive. Or it arrives briefly, then collapses. Or it appears partially, inconsistently, or in distorted form. This is where people usually conclude that something is wrong with their intention. They assume they didn't focus hard enough. They weren't disciplined enough. They didn't hold the vision long enough. But within the manifestation cycle, this moment marks something else entirely. It marks the end of effort as an explanation. If intention alone created reality, clarity would be enough. But many people experience a very specific pattern. They set an intention, momentum begins, then something tightens. Progress slows, derails, or becomes exhausting to maintain. This is not random. It is the cycle revealing a limit, not of desire, but of capacity. The system can generate intention faster than it can safely receive its consequences. So the intention does not fail because it is unclear. It fails because it asks the body to move into a level of expansion it cannot yet stabilize. The manifestation cycle does not reward intention. It tests tolerance. There is a widespread belief that clarity equals readiness. That once you know what you want, the system should follow. But clarity is cognitive. Readiness is physiological. You can be crystal clear about wanting more money, more visibility, more responsibility, deeper intimacy, greater impact, and still have a nervous system that experiences those outcomes as threat. When that happens, the body does not argue with the intention. It quietly overrides it, not through sabotage, but through protection. This is why intention often works up to a familiar edge and then stops. The edge is not confusion. It is not fear in the abstract. It is not a lack of belief. It is the moment where expansion would require the body to hold more sensation, more exposure, more unpredictability than it currently can. At that point, the cycle pauses. This section is not about doing intention better. It is about telling the truth. The truth is that manifestation is not governed by what you want. It is governed by what your system can remain present with once it arrives. Effort tries to push past this. Honesty recognizes it. And that recognition is not failure. It is orientation. Because once you stop blaming intention, you can begin listening to capacity. That is where the cycle actually moves forward. If intention is what points you forward, capacity is what determines how far you can actually go. Capacity is not motivation. It is not discipline. It is not how badly you want something. Capacity is the nervous system's ability to remain open while more life moves through it. And this is where the manifestation cycle quietly shifts from will to regulation. Capacity is not a mindset. It is a physiological state. It shows up in the body as the ability to stay present without tightening, the ability to receive without bracing, the ability to expand without triggering collapse or hypervigilance. When capacity is sufficient, expansion feels fluid. When capacity is exceeded, the system contracts, often without conscious awareness. This is why two people can hold the same intention and get very different results. Not because one wants it more, but because one system can tolerate what the intention would require. Every manifestation brings with it more than the thing itself. More money brings increased responsibility, increased decision density, increased exposure. More visibility brings more eyes, more judgment, more unpredictability. More intimacy brings more sensation, more vulnerability, less control. To hold more life means the body can allow these increases without reflexively protecting itself. Holding does not mean enduring. It means staying open. The manifestation cycle does not ask, "Can you get it?" It asks, "Can you stay regulated once it's here?" Expansion increases nervous system load. Not metaphorically, literally. More responsibility means more variables to track, more consequences to feel, less margin for dissociation. More visibility means fewer places to hide, increased social exposure, heightened sensory and emotional input. For a system calibrated to survival, this feels dangerous. So when intention pushes toward outcomes that raise load faster than regulation can adapt, the body intervenes. Not through conscious resistance, through subtle contraction. Energy drains, clarity blurs, motivation becomes inconsistent, momentum stalls. This is not self-sabotage. It is the body enforcing its current limits. Will tries to override capacity. Regulation builds it. This is the pivot point of the cycle. You don't expand by wanting harder. You expand by increasing the amount of life your nervous system can meet without closing. When regulation increases, capacity increases. When capacity increases, manifestation stabilizes. This is not a personal flaw. It is a biological sequence. And once this is seen clearly, the cycle stops feeling mysterious and starts becoming workable. When intention meets its limit, the mind usually turns inward. It starts judging. Why am I blocking this? Why do I always sabotage myself? Why can't I just allow things to work? Within the manifestation cycle, this is a critical misunderstanding. What appears as resistance is not opposition to your desire. It is protection from expansion. The ego is not a belief system. It is not a personality flaw. It is not the enemy of growth. The ego is the nervous system contracting around something it cannot yet hold. Whenever life begins to expand faster than the body can regulate, contraction appears. That contraction is what we call ego. It shows up as overthinking, hesitation, control strategies, self-doubt, urgency, or withdrawal. Not because growth is wrong, but because expansion has crossed the system's current threshold of safety. The ego forms at the edge of capacity. The body's primary role is not to fulfill intention. It is to maintain coherence. So when an intention implies more exposure, more responsibility, more emotional intensity, more unpredictability, the body evaluates one thing only. Can I stay regulated here? If the answer is no, the body does not negotiate. It does not debate philosophy. It does not respond to affirmations. It contracts. This contraction is not failure. It is intelligence. The body is choosing safety over aspiration, not because it is afraid of success, but because it is protecting the system from overload. Seen this way, ego is not self-sabotage. It is self-preservation. When contraction appears, many people respond with force. They push harder. They double down on will. They try to override the body with discipline, pressure, or mindset control. This backfires because force increases load. Trying to push through contraction increases tension, reduces regulation, and signals danger to the nervous system. So the body contracts further. What looks like a lack of alignment is actually too much alignment, too fast. The cycle stalls not because desire is wrong, but because the body has not yet learned that expansion is survivable. This is the turning point. When you stop treating ego as an obstacle and start recognizing it as a boundary, something softens. Compassion restores regulation. Regulation restores capacity. Capacity allows expansion to continue without force. The manifestation cycle does not require you to defeat the ego. It requires you to listen to it. Because every place you contract is showing you exactly where capacity is asking to grow next. And that is not a problem. That is the path. At this point in the cycle, something becomes unmistakably clear. Reality is not responding to how much you want something. It is responding to how much of it your body can tolerate without contraction. Capacity, not desire, is the gatekeeper. Desire initiates movement. Capacity determines how far that movement can go. What shows up in your life reflects what your system can receive without tightening, sustain without bracing, hold without collapsing, remain open to without protection activating. This is why manifestation often advances smoothly until it doesn't. The pause is not punishment. It is feedback. The cycle is asking, can your body stay here? Until the answer is yes, reality does not push further. Capacity limits do not announce themselves as thoughts. They show up as signals. A subtle urgency, shallow breath, pressure in the chest, fatigue when momentum increases, loss of clarity near expansion, a vague sense of dread without a story. These are not signs to correct your thinking. They are indicators of nervous system load. Listening means noticing these signals without trying to eliminate them. The moment you stop overriding the body, information becomes available. Timing is not about waiting passively. It is about allowing the system to adapt. Capacity grows through regulation, not force. When expansion pauses, something is integrating. When momentum slows, the system is reorganizing. When desire feels present but movement feels unavailable, the body is recalibrating its ability to hold what is coming next. Pushing during this phase creates instability. Listening creates coherence. The cycle does not reward impatience. It rewards readiness. Control tries to dictate outcomes. Listening tracks internal conditions. This is the final shift of this video. Manifestation becomes less about directing life and more about cooperating with the system that must live it. When capacity expands, reality responds naturally. When capacity is exceeded, the body closes the gate. And when you learn to listen to that gate, manifestation stops feeling like a struggle and starts becoming a conversation. That conversation is the cycle.